strangest unsolved mysteries from each state. Today we have Alabama. This was literally the only photo of her. Anyways, this is Ruth Purcell Morphy Dorsey. She was 69 years old and she was a Sunday school teacher in Opelika's First Baptist Church. She would always go to work, she was very punctual, but then one day in 1974, she just did not show up to church. Everyone was worried because this was just so out of character for Ruth, because you know anybody named Ruth wouldn't do this. They report her as a missing person to the Lee County deputies and they go to her house on Route 1 to check on her. When they get there, they find the front door is completely open and the side door is unlocked. She had 3 dogs and they were all huddling in the corner of the bathroom together. And her bed was made and appeared to not have been slept in, even though her neighbor said that they saw her pull into her driveway the night before. If she was there the night before, why wasn't her bed slept in? Her Bible and her Sunday school lesson were all on the table and her car was found in downtown Opelika with the keys in the ignition. Her purse, her wallet, and her glasses were all there and nothing seemed to be missing. And there have been no withdrawals from her bank account since she disappeared.
World's most unsolved mysteries. This picture contains mysteries from the most well-known to the darkest. Some of these mysteries have never been solved and never will. Today we're going to be talking about shadow people. Shadows are described as being the dark part of ourselves, while shadow people are described as being spirits who lurk in the dark. For example, have you ever been by yourself and you feel like you just saw somebody move at the corner of your eye? If you answered yes to that question, you're actually a part of a small group of people who've actually experienced that. Crazy enough, majority of people have never ever experienced that. According to science, the reason we see these shadow people is because our brain is trying to process whatever image we're looking at. But the one thing science can't figure out, if it's all in our head, then why do people say they've been touched by them?
Did you and your parents ever play games together? When Jasmine was younger, something strange happened. One night, her mother checked up on her while she was sleeping, but it wasn't the way that you usually think. She woke up in the middle of the night with a strange feeling that someone or something had been watching her. She looked up and saw that her mother was just standing there, smiling and staring at her with her eyes unnaturally wide open. Jasmine asked what she was doing up in the middle of the night, and her mother replied, "I'm watching you sleep." Jasmine knew something was wrong. They kept staring at each other and neither of them blinked. Jasmine somehow knew they were playing a game together, a game to see who would blink first. But what would happen if Jasmine blinked? She was terrified to find out. This figure in her bedroom was not her mother. It was in her eyes. It held something terrifying, something inhuman. Soon, this version of her mother began moving backwards, without blinking, turning around, or breaking eye contact. She just moved back until she reached Jasmine's closet, then opened the door and stepped inside, as if she'd been staying there this entire time. Jasmine kept staring at the closet, and without breaking eye contact, ran to her parents' room. There, she saw her mother on her bed, sleeping peacefully.
Let's discuss a case that keeps me up at night. I want to discuss the disappearance of Timothy Pitson. Timothy was the son of Amy and James Pitson. Unfortunately, Amy and James were on a path to divorce, because James actually caught Amy talking to her ex-husband. Amy expressed to relatives that she was not happy about getting a second divorce. And I guess like most cases like this, people on the outside said the family seemed normal. Things took a turn for the worst. Amy here picked up her son Timothy from kindergarten way earlier than normal. She proceeds to take him on a 2-day road trip, going to like amusement parks and doing all kinds of fun stuff. Meanwhile, James has no idea why she did this or where they are. They're not answering the phone. They're not communicating with him at all. On May 11th, Amy was found dead in a hotel room by suicide. It left a lot of questions, but the biggest question is, where was Timothy?
The strangest unsolved mysteries from each state. Today we have Kentucky. I know how much you guys love murder and all. Sorry to disappoint. This one's not about murder, but it's really weird. March 3rd, 1876. It was a beautiful day outside until it started raining. Not water, but literal chunks of meat. When this was all happening in Bath County, Kentucky, people were looking up in the sky and it seemed as if there was no source of where this meat was coming from. Down rained these fat chunks of red meat that had no origin. Whether it was lamb or cow or bear, literally nobody knew what it was. If you don't have this through your head yet, it was literally raining meat from the sky. A vegan's worst nightmare. There is no actual explanation as to why this happened or even what it was. The only theory that arose was that some vultures had gorged themselves on some food and while flying overhead, they threw up everywhere. While this was back in 1876, they did save some of the meat in this jar and it is still in there today. Okay, serious question, answer in the comments. How much money would somebody have to give you for you to eat that?
When you go to sleep tonight, don't do what she did. Once there was a young woman named Alicia who moved into a very old house with her parents, but she could have never expected the horrifying things that this would lead to. After living in this house for a few weeks, things started becoming strange. Alicia noticed she was becoming weaker and feeling sick. Pretty soon she couldn't leave her bed and would sleep for most of the day. The doctors came to examine her and everyone wanted to find out what this mysterious sickness was, but no one had any answers. Until one day Alicia passed away while sleeping. Then, after her funeral, her mother came home and with a broken heart began cleaning her room. That's when she noticed something strange about Alicia's pillow. There were 2 small red stains. She picked it up and realized the pillow was unusually heavy, so she called her husband to go look at it with her. Then Alicia's mother felt something inside the pillow move. Her father opened the pillow and took all the feathers out. There they saw something crawl out. It was a monstrous black spider. Night after night, as Alicia lay in bed, this huge spider had been slowly drinking all her blood through her pillow.
World's most unsolved mysteries. This picture contains mysteries from the most well-known to the darkest. Some of these mysteries have never been solved and never will. Okay, so tier 3. Today we're going to be talking about the black-eyed children. Black-eyed children are supposedly the devil's children. These children have pale skin with solid black eyes. The ages range from 6 years old all the way up to 16. The story I'm about to tell will literally leave chills on your body. Okay, so sightings of these children have been recorded all the way back to the 1990s. During the 1990s, internet wasn't as popular as it is now, which is a very important detail because fake news couldn't spread that fast like it could now. A woman was sleeping in her bed when her dog started to growl. The dog was growling in the middle of the night around 2 a.m. so the woman woke up and peeked out of her window to see what the dog was growling at. The lady peeks through her blinds and sees a woman just staring at her front door. The lady then cracked the door open to see if maybe this woman needed help. The woman just stared at her and said, "Can I come inside?" The lady said she refused the offer and said no, and the lady's eyes turned solid black. Thousands of people from all different countries reported the same kind of sightings. Ironically, all of the reports are about people refusing to help these black-eyed children. So the real question is, what happened to the people who let the children in? So what do you think? Do you think all of these thousands of people are lying, or do you think there's something much darker inside? Make sure to like and follow because tier 4 is tomorrow.
The world's scariest unsolved mysteries. This photo right here shows all the world's unsolved mysteries, from the most well-known to the darkest of the dark. Now in this series, of course, we're going to be picking some from each category until we reach tier 10, which will apparently change the way you see the world. Now make sure to hit that follow button because we're coming towards the end of the series now and stuff's getting messed up. With that said, let's get into part 9. This is messed up. On June the 9th, 1912, a family was living in this house in Villisca in the USA. Now they were a happy family and they'd actually lived there for a while. And they all lived pretty happily in this house. One night they actually had the neighbour's 2 kids over to stay for a sleepover. So that night they all went to bed just like normal. But then things got weird. In the early morning, the neighbour went round to get her kids and found all 8 people brutally murdered on the floor, and the murder weapon an axe. However, there was no signs of forced entry, not even a broken glass, and all the doors were locked when she got there. So what happened?
The strangest unsolved mysteries from each state. Today we have Nevada. Terry McClure disappeared after leaving her son Tim's wedding in Lake Tahoe in 1983. 3 days later, she was found dead in a Carson City casino parking lot. Tim and Terry were really close, they even lived together, and so he was very upset when he found out that his mother was found in the parking lot and that she had been shot in the head twice. She was also believed to have died the night of his wedding. The police actually started looking at Tim as the main suspect in Terry's murder. They said they had circumstantial evidence that pointed at him for being responsible for her murder. Something that the police found very suspicious was that the day before her disappearance, he canceled all of her credit cards. And a few months before her death, Terry had taken out a $10,000 life insurance policy with Tim as the co-beneficiary. In other words, if she dies, he gets $10,000. Tim was arrested after he appeared on the show Unsolved Mysteries, but the case was dismissed when the DA declined to prosecute him. And some of Tim's family members publicly state that they think he's guilty.